Speaking of sweetness, let's talk about Brian Greenberg.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
The sweetest.
He
Jake
was such a good
Jagielski.
energy, too.
He really was.
We got robbed when he went and did his other show. We
an HBO show.
We were like,
Bastidores.
fine. I feel like we'd all have had I just feel like things would have been better if he'd stayed. I might be giving my cards away here. All of our cards, really.
Listen, Sophia and I. So at the
we
time,
were all so in love with him.
we really were.
Yeah.
Joy, you were hanging out with Chef. You were like on the Chef train, and Sophia and I over at the Riverview Suites. I remember riding down in the elevator of the Riverview Suites with you, and I was in a relationship, so I could not say I think Greenberg is cute, but I was like, he's so fun, and he's really cool, And you were like, oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, you and I were like little girls just being like, oh my God, he's so cute. Oh my God. Like when you're so young that you get excited that someone else thinks the person you think is cute because it's just so exciting to share a secret.
It's a validation.
Yeah.
And he had that
was
damn
super
guitar everywhere.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Ugh.
Yeah, he was a babe. And by the way, like stayed a babe. Like he's still the nicest dude on the planet.
The best.
I love how much he loves his wife. Like he is the guy that he was then. Like there was nothing false about him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I loved about him as an actor too, is when you watch him on screen, there's nothing fake. He can't be anything other than just real in that way.
He's so genuine.
Yeah.
When he takes that bag,
When he takes Nathan's bag.
Just my heart. Because it's such a shitty thing Dan does to Lucas. Going, hey, son. And then it's, his son. Again, another double entendre. And you see the heartbreak on Chad's face playing Lucas in that scene. And you're just like, it knocks the wind out of you. And then Brian comes in. Don't let him take it, and just takes the bag and puts it over his shoulder.
Hold on, though.
So
I love how we refer to most of the actors by their character's name, but with Greenberg, we're like, but Brian. Like, he did it for real. Like, it was really his choice. Brian's a hero.
Brian did it.
Brian. I was told, in like season 2, that Peyton and Jake were endgame. And I was like, oh, weird.
Really?
And I think they just said that to throw me off the trail. Do you know what I mean?
This is a good place for us to talk about this because we all got told lots of things that weren't the same. And I was told, by the way, from day one that Peyton and Lucas were endgame. Like I signed up for a pilot in which Peyton was not willing to admit that she loved the emo boy.
Yeah.
And so you got told Peyton and Jake were endgame.
But
Joy,
I think they did that because they wanted me to not lean into the chat of it. Do you know what I mean? Like it was a mind game.
Oh, heaven forbid they just tell us what our jobs are as actors because we're professionals. It's like, why did they want us to be weirdly invested in things behind the scenes? Joy, did you always know it was going to be Haley and Nathan, or did you think it was going to be something or someone else?
No, I was surprised. I thought it was going to be Haley and Lucas for a little bit, but then our energy was so siblingness that there was just that didn't happen. So I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I think it was, once, I'll be interested to see when this happens because I think it's later on in season 1 when Haley starts tutoring Nathan. And I think that was originally just supposed to be an extra conflict of interest with Lucas. Like Lucas's best friend has to work with Nathan. But James and I, who knew we had chemistry and on screen. And as soon as we started, getting on together, it was like, people started liking it, and there were message boards back then. And I don't know. It'd be nice to talk with some of the writers on our show who were there at the beginning.
I was told after
the
pilot. I was told after the pilot that Nathan and Haley were going to be like,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was part of the reason they recast because they were like, no, we need Nathan and Haley. Like, she is going to fix him. And I was like, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, they told me, and that's why they were like, we need someone who is sexy So, but like doesn't act like it, So that Nathan gets drawn in by this understated thing. And
so all of my codependent issues really worked for me in this storyline.
Yeah.
I was here to save him.
Yeah.
Like
wow.
every good high school girl with codependent issues.
Guys, we cannot bring home the fixer-uppers. Like for any teenage girl listening right now.
Nope.
Don't bring home the baggage. Just leave it at school.
And anyone who tells you, you make me want to be better. No. Run for the hills.
Yeah.
I remember my dad using a metaphor that he thought I would understand because my parents literally in college, I rescued so many dogs and I would always bring them to my parents' house for a night before I could figure out where to take them.
This is a metaphor for the relationships.
It is. It'll get there. It'll come back around. My dad was like, if you bring home one more stray dog into this house where we already have dogs, I will literally change the locks and never let you back in. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I guess 6 was too many, but okay, fine. And years later, fast forward, I don't know, we're in our like mid-20s and my dad just said, no more sick puppies. Rescue dogs, not people. And I just remember being like, and just sobbing because I didn't understand that the sort of, I don't know, that desire or that subconscious thing. Basically, Joy, what I'm saying is I also have codependency issues and I'm glad we share that. And I didn't know that was bleeding into spaces where it could be, detrimental to me. And so, baggage at school, puppies at the shelter, just keep on
moving. There's healthy clear. Out there, kids. Yeah, there's healthy really out there. I promise. Can we talk about Dan?
Oh, yeah.
Because this really was like a Dan-centric episode, manipulating all the kids. But it's so weird to see how young all the parents are in the show.
And as a parent now, it is interesting to watch those storylines, which we noted earlier that it was, I'm recognizing for the first time why, one of the reasons why our show is so popular among such a broad age range, because you could watch it with your kids in high school or, whatever. I don't know what age is appropriate for this show, but at the time you would watch it with your young adults and then the grown-ups would watch it as well because they had storylines that they were interested in. And I think it's really cool. I'm liking watching the parent storyline now. I didn't really care much when I was 20.
Well, when Dan tells Nathan, Nathan says, "Oh, he's hitting on my girlfriend right in front of me." And Dan says, if you're going to get in a fight over something important. I remember feeling so slighted as a young person. But now as an adult, like if my son came home and was like, I got in a fight over a girl, I'd be like, you big idiot. Like, what are you doing? And so to find myself as a grown-up siding with Dan Scott, like, what have I become?
That's crazy.
Yeah, and watching Karen, not go to the game and wrestle with like, I want to support my son, but I just can't go that must have been hard. I'll be curious to know what Moira has to say about that, because that's a hard choice to justify, like to not be able to get past your own issues with for Karen not to be able to get past her issues with Dan and Nathan in order to not show up.
Have you gone back to your high schools in real life?
Yes.
When'd you go?
5, 6, 7 years ago. 7 years ago, probably. Just walked through the halls.
I went back for a fundraiser, but I don't even remember when. It's got to be at least that long.
It's just so weird because we have these like fake high school memories and like the sets that we walked through as many times as we walked through our real high school halls, And so to go back to like the real space, that scene with Karen being like, what did she say? That place knows too much. What?
I can't go back there. What is it?
That place knows too much. I got chills when she said that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I go home.
I think we all have places that feel like that. And I think in a way, isn't it interesting that our show has carried that energy for us in a sense until we've been like, no, wait, this is ours. And we made it and it was awesome. And we're taking it back. Yeah. You know, it's a big thing. And Joy, to your point, when you asked, like, I wonder how Moira did that. I think our experience in Wilmington actually being so isolated on our show, because it was all college kids and retired people mostly. Like,
but really was.
It really was. Like, we just had each other. It was very insular. It was very small. And so I think at times when we were figuring ourselves out, it could make failure feel so much bigger. And I don't know. I would almost wager that maybe for her, it was every single person who's in that gym tonight has a story about me. Like, there's no anonymity in a town like Tree Hill. That was kind of part of the point, was how in everybody else was. So I don't know. I'd be curious to know that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This was also the episode where we got to hear the theme song for the first time.
Yeah, we had our opening credits.
Yes.
I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be.
It's so funny. Every time that song comes on and I like walk into a restaurant or whatever, I'm like, do I hide or am I like proud of it? Do I like walk around like I secretly hope somebody's going to know?
Do you feel like you're being punked?
Yes.
It used to be that like in supermarkets or in restaurants, it was on a loop. So you knew that like it was just like a block of music that played over and over again. Yeah. Now with the way like Spotify or like technology works, I feel like I'm being punked because it's everywhere.
I'm like, are we being followed? Are they tracking our phones? Does someone think this is funny? Like, what is that?
They're like, it could be her or it could not be her, but this is how we're going to find out.
And then they hit
And then if you get weird, if you get socially awkward, it's her. It's her. It's totally her.
Oh, God. I do love that song. I still love it. I think it's such a good song. That whole album is really strong. Gavin DeGraw. What's the album? It's Chariot, right? The album is called Chariot. And the song at the end of the episode was a Gavin DeGraw song also called Belief, which is a super powerful song. He's such an amazing songwriter.
Do you remember partying with him at Firebelly? When did he come visit? Was it the Sheryl Crow episode?
Yeah, the Sheryl Crow episode, he came back to visit. He was there a few times. He came back in the end, too.
Yeah, he was in and out.
Yeah.
He played like our kickoff party, I think. Like when we premiered, he came to Wilmington and like played at a bar or something. But I just remember like being around a pool table with Gavin DeGraw being like, wow, he's really famous. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's so cool that he sang our song.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
He's fun time, too. He's a great guy.
Did you tour with him?
Yeah. Yep. I went on tour with him and Michelle Branch. And he's just like, he's got that swagger. He's got that like, deep artistic, soulful heart, but has also like he's a great time. He'll just, shoot the shit with anybody. He'll have a conversation with anybody from anywhere. He's a curious person. And I just think he's a super cool guy.
That's so cool.
We stayed in touch on and off. And he's a good guy.
Has he ever come to one of the conventions?
No, but he should. They totally should bring him out.
Gavin, if you're listening, don't be a dork. Come hang out with us. It's so fun. We're a great time.
We'll just bring him on this show is what we need to do. I had one of my coolest moments with Gavin. When he opened for Billy, this is years later, this is after the show has ended, he opened for Billy Joel on Billy Joel tour. And
say what?
Anybody that knows me knows what a freak I am about Billy Joel. Like I know every song. I know every word to every song. He's my favorite. So I went to the Billy Joel concert and he was opening and I texted him, but I didn't hear. I was like, he's getting ready to do a show. He's not going to respond. So I was sitting in the front and Gavin does his song and he starts doing our theme song and he's like walking down around the audience and it's like a Hollywood Bowl. So you can come down the side of the stage and come around the middle and up the middle. And as he comes around up the middle, he's got security around him. And I was like, it. And I just I told my friend who I was with, I was like, I'll be right back. And I just ran out into the aisle and like rushed him like a crazy fan and like got right up in his face. Like, and I was like, I was like, either he's going to see me and he's going to let me sing this with him or he's going to be totally freaked out and like the security's going to take me away, but I'm going to like take the risk anyway. I'm at a Billy Joel concert. I have to do it.
Oh my
so
God.
I ran up. And he definitely was like, and then his face switched when he saw me and recognized me and was like, oh my God. And then like brought me in and we sang on the mic together for a second.
Oh.
And like, it was so great. And then he went up, they put us up on the big Tron or whatever the big screen is. We were there singing together. So I sang at a Billy Joel concert, technically.
That is cool. That's street cred, Joy.
It was pretty cool. He texted me afterwards. He was like, I have a cold. You might want to take some vitamin C when you get home.
Oh, no. Also, though, I just love your boldness. You're like, I'm going. To rush the performer, Joy, you're iconic.
Yeah, I would have been too scared. Like, what if TMZ had been there to catch me getting, like, clotheslined by security? Who's the broad?
Life is short.
Oh, man.
I like that you went for it. Speaking of going for it, this whole, like, Peyton art thing, people all the time want to know who drew those pictures. Like, I'm just going to say it wasn't me. We had like trained professionals that did all the artwork. And so all the stuff that you see, maybe our awesome producer can pull up her name.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know the name of the person that did all that.
I don't know if it was the same person all seasons.
Oh, really?
But we had such a great art department. Some of the artwork, though, that was taped up to the wall that Peyton tears down was stuff that I'd drawn during the pilot. And then they just like ripped it out of the notebooks that they'd given me and taped it up because it was like, we got to cover some wall space. So all of my real art is the trash art guy.
And it was drawn by, it's on there, Hilarie in the chat. They just
put it
Helen
up. Ward. Did Helen do all seasons? I mean, it's iconic. People make, those canvases that they want us to sign at conventions.
I hope she's making money off of that.
I do too. Where's her little coffee table book? Peyton pictures. Sad stuff. Your art matters.
Your art matters.
You know what's so weird is that when the show started, it was like art. But I'd come from MTV, and I'm like not an arty lady, but I did have like the music thing going. And so the transition from art to music for Peyton, it was one of those things where it was like art imitating life. And Sophia, you just talked about this. Like your character had to turn into Sophia a little bit more in order for it to fit right. Joy, did you feel, I mean, they added you becoming a musician because you were such a skilled musician in real life.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I think that I did love that about the show, that there was a heavy bent on our artistic prowess, being whether it was writers or people who were reading, great literature or art, great music. I mean, those are cornerstones of our show that, again, something that is a little harder to find now in this genre. And I just love that. And yes, I think, it was just total providence, coincidence, whatever you want to call it, that I was able to be cast on a show that had that one of music as a major cornerstone. And that, I never came on the show thinking I was going to play a musician ever. And I don't think anyone planned that. Mark heard me singing to myself in a parking lot and just decided he was like, hey, do you want to sing on the show? I was like, I don't know. Do I? Maybe. I don't know. I really didn't know because there was so much I was uncertain about at the time. But yeah, I'm really glad that I did. It was just super cool. Opened up a lot of doors for me. It was cool.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, the idea that we got to talk about music and writing and really elevate their sort of pathways into feeling and human experience and catharsis, those are things that a lot of people weren't getting. And we were all talking during the episode about how interesting it was, like even in that scene with Lucas and Karen in the cafe, when he's so mad and she's yelling at him because he got in a fight with Nathan at school, and he's being a boy. He's expressing anger and frustration, and to see that in that character, and then on the flip side to have Nathan's character being a little boy who's been pressured to behave like a man and like the wrong kind of man, you know, a petty, narcissistic man. It was so incredible to kind of have these men on this seesaw of feeling. It gave all these people permission. And we obviously as the girls got to do so much of our own, you know, I was going to say legwork, and then I'm like, I guess it's heart work, like emotional stuff. But I think that's part of why it's really lived for a lot of people still, is because they, no matter what end of the spectrum you come in on, you feel represented in some way. And I would like to think you feel permission to like feel your feelings and your own complexities and things.
Well, did boys cry on TV? See, I was never watching teen dramas, so the only boy I ever cried on TV was Dawson, because I see that meme of James Vanderbeek.
I know.
It's like a meme.
It is a meme.
But did boys cry on TV back then?
Oh, I'm sure they did. I'm sure there was.
I don't really know.
I feel like there was an episode of Luke Perry crying on 90210 at some point.
Chad was really, really good
Yeah.
about being vulnerable as a boy, you know, and not having to play that toxic masculinity thing of like, oh, I don't feel anything. I'm dead inside. You know?
Yeah.
He went for it.
And I think that's such an interesting thing too, you know, that they wanted him to play Nathan. And he wanted to do something different than he'd been doing for his career.
Yeah.
And you know, isn't it so funny that then, and we've talked about this before, but like you had sweet little baby James come in to play Nathan. He's such a sensitive soul, and then had to come in and be bad.
Yes.
And it's, I don't know, it's just so interesting, all the things that we all were able to try and the ways we had to push ourselves to be these people.
Have you guys ever seen James's audition tape? Because like I know how James enters a room and it's like, hey, it's nice to see you. Cool. You know, and it's like so chill. And then when they just start the scene, like I can't imagine that like turn in the audition where it's like, oh no, I'm evil. You know,
it's so wild. It's striking me in this moment because, you know, Hilarie, you were talking about how, like even in your scenes, like when Peyton and Lucas would be doing these emotional scenes, like Chad would always, you know, meet you there.
Yeah.
And then Joy, I remember asking you something when we were working early years. And I was like, how do you do that though? Like what's the mechanism to cry like that? Like I have to get so sad. And you just looked at me and you were like, well, you know, I just kind of, and you did this like thing. You went somewhere in your head and you looked to the side and then you were crying. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? It was like the most magical thing I'd ever seen. And in this moment, it's hitting me that, you know, you guys, you and Chad really came in having had the most experience on sets. And like me, Hilarie, and James didn't know anything. And so I'm like,
puppet.
Yeah, man. But it's cool because I realized that in this moment, I'm like, oh, right. You guys had like these amazing performer skill sets that, I remember watching you do things and just being like, wow.
Aww. Mm-hmm. Well, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of opportunities to do that. And you got a lot more opportunities to do all that too. So, I mean, I think Brooke took such
You built it for yourself.
Yeah, you really did. And I'm so excited for us to see more of that. The next episode is the famous one of you in the backseat of the car. I'm pretty sure that's the next one. But, you know, we get to know a little bit more about Brooke.
So to all our friends at home, we heard you all really liked our most likely tos last week. And so the three of us did a little digging on the internet and we dug up some pretty excellent most likely tos.
I'm so excited about these.
They're so ridiculous. We would like, if you guys continue to find this fun, to pick one every week and decide who we want to attribute it to.
What is the one for this week? All right, are we pulling it? Is there a drum roll?
Let's pull it.
Go.
Oh, okay. Who is most likely to go on The Bachelor?
Not that we've seen her yet, but the moment I saw that come out of the hat, my first thought was Deb.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
She's like, I deserve a second chapter. I've been dealing with Dan Scott for decades. Yeah.
I'm going to say probably Rachel.
Oh my God, it's
Do you know
totally
what I mean?
Rachel.
Like Danielle hasn't appeared yet, but Rachel did Maxim. I mean, she did all sorts of weird stuff. And then after I left, didn't she end up doing like a TV show with Dan Scott or something weird?
Oh, yeah. She ended up, well, do we give away the spoiler?
I heard a rumor that they ended up together. Like she's totally the person to end up on The Bachelor.
Yeah, she ended up with the rich guy on a private jet. You're right. It's Rachel.
God bless.
I love her.
Okay, you guys are flooding our inbox. We love it so much. It's so cool to hear from all of you. Okay, so we have some listener questions. Are you girls ready for this?
Ooh, I don't know. How invasive are they?
I'm not feeling witty today. I'm sorry. I was going to say something about my last gynecology appointment, but that would be totally inappropriate.
No!
Okay. Simon was wondering what your first impressions of each other were, which we talked about a little bit, and whether they still remain the same now. And do you think filming on location in particular made you all much closer? Ooh. Well, I still think Sophia's beautiful, and I was blown away to find out that she was so incredibly brilliant as well. Like what an amazing double hitter. What do they call it? God really doled out with both hands on you, kiddo.
She's a winner. Listen, I remember realizing how smart Sophia was when we started doing crew Christmas presents, and we would get the entire crew Best Buy gift certificates. And Sophia was the person that was like, you guys are stressing me out. I'm going to handle this. And she would go to Best Buy, buy like 1,000 gift certificates, and then have the lists of names and figure out who got what. And like, be in her trailer just managing that. And it was a big task.
All the math.
And girlfriend, you got the money. She got all the money from everybody.
Yeah, she organized.
She's the boss.
Yes. And that was pre-Venmo.
Yeah. And Hilarie, I still think you're also beautiful and so cool and so soulful and smart. And I mean, yes, my first impressions of both of you stuck and have deepened for sure.
100%. Hilarie, you're like wickedly intimidatingly cool and so yourself, and actually something you share, I was just about to pivot to you, Joy, but I realized one of the things that like I love the most about you both, and that also makes me feel intimidated because I feel like I don't know anything, is you have such a deep well of like expert level musical theater knowledge. So sometimes when the three of us are together, but when the three of us are together, one of you says something and then you go off on a tangent and I'm like, where are they going? What are they talking about? What is this?
It's usually straight to Jean Valjean.
Yeah, it's Les Mis or Into the Woods. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Always.
My first impression of Joy, and this is something that continues to ring true, is Joy is the all-American girl next door. She is wholesome and like so easy to love right out of the gates. But Joy has a naughty streak that I always felt so privileged to know about. And so just recently we have a mutual friend and we were talking about Joy, and she's like, Joy's just so wholesome and so good. And I'm like, what Joy are you hanging out with? Because I know Party Joy, and she is fun. When Joy lets you into that cut loose circle, you've made it. That's the upper echelon.
It feels real nice because it's true. You're so beautiful and talented, and you sing like an angel. And I think because you were playing Haley, we all were like, aw. And then you get into like the whiskey nights and you're just like, oh, I've made it.
Right.
I've made it.
Give me a glass of Johnny Walker and a nice long Virginia Slim, and I'll have a real good night. Have a good chat.
There it is.
Bad Girls Club. Here we come. Bad Girls. All right. What's our next question?
Oh, Hilarie, this one's for you. Stacy says, Hilarie, in the pilot episode, did you actually almost run over Chad with the comet?
Oh, Christ. I mean.
Did you?
So here's what's up. I hadn't really driven a car since high school because I lived in Manhattan. Like, why would I drive a car? And so I came down. I don't know that my license was even good. And they give me this car that is, it's a vintage car. Brakes aren't awesome. It shifts in and out of gear on its own. And they're just like, okay, honey, what you need to do is pick up a little speed and then like hit the brakes and hit this mark exactly because he's just going to be standing here. And guys, I couldn't even hit a mark walking. Like, how am I going to? Chad's quick. He's limber. He survived. What do you want me to do? Yeah. Okay, great. So those are our listener questions. Will you guys please keep sending them to us?
Yes.
You know, because it's fun to figure out what you want to talk about. We know what we want to talk about.
We could just go on and on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about Joy and her secret talent?
Ooh.
This is truly one of the greatest things. And especially, you know, a year into not being able to not only be together because we don't live in the same place as all of us, but no one could be together because of this pandemic. And then it was finally safe for us to do this, and we got to do our shoot. And I mean, listen, we may or may not have taken all those bottles of Jane Walker home from the bar with us.
We did. Spoiler,
but
we did.
In my defense, I did bring them for us. Yeah. I brought them as presents, and then we opened them all.
We certainly weren't going to leave them.
Joy's Ranch. No. Who would ever waste a great bottle of whiskey? We took them to Joy's Ranch, and we were like out with the horses and the dogs. And then we turn around, and this goddess woman with her mermaid hair is mixing the stiffest drinks that were just so good.
Well, the rose petals are what got me. Joy goes out into her garden and is just like plucking rose petals to put in drinks. And like, is she a fairy? What is this? It was glorious.
Yeah, you made us this like floral version of an old fashioned. I mean, it's what inspired the cocktails that we literally made with Jane Walker. We got to make boxes of them because of you.
It was so cool. So I love mixology. It's something that I kind of started over the pandemic. And it's to me, it's kind of like the closest I know how to get to potion making. Like, there's like all these pretty bottles, and you can pour stuff out and mix things, and they taste good, and they make you feel certain ways, and it's very exciting. So yeah, it's become a bit of a hobby, and that was one of my favorites. I really love. There's a rose syrup. It's not a syrup. It's a liqueur. It's a rose liqueur, and when you mix it into kind of like an old fashioned style drink with whiskey, it's particularly great. So we'll have to post that recipe as well as our smoky lapsang souchong smoky syrup tea infused cocktail that we got to make with Jane Walker, and it's called the Iconic. So pass the word around. That's the Iconic drama queen, and we'll post those recipes soon. But yeah, that was fun, and I'm so glad that you girls came over because it was really, we haven't been able to really do that just all together.
No, we were supposed to come to your house just for dinner, and Sophie and I didn't leave till like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was like, I hope we get a car out here, and we did. But yeah, it was an adventure. I love it out there, just sitting out on your patio and like seeing the horses and all the stars and being able to catch up. That's like the first time we've gotten to hang out in somebody's backyard since we were in Wilmington.
Oh my gosh, that's right. It's so true.
Yeah, because so much of what we've all been able to do, you know, over the last half decade has been in cities around the world. Like we'll go to Montreal, we'll go to Paris. We haven't been able to just sit at home, and it felt so nice.
So how should we wrap up, guys? Should we talk about...
we need to talk about what our favorite lines of the episode are, for sure.
Okay. I don't think there's any... I mean, I guess, Your Art Matters is like, that's the one. That's like the star line.
Yeah.
It's tattooed on my heart. Like not in real life, guys. Like I don't really have it tattooed, but I feel like that's the heart of Peyton. Like that line, everything comes back to that.
Yeah.
And it's Your Art Matters is that iconic line, but it's the support line. It's what got me here. Like that's the whole thing of it. You did something and it made me brave.
It did matter. It's after you gave him that whole speech, the whole grown-up speech at the car. And what does it matter? It doesn't matter to anybody anyway. And that he took the risk to say that to you in spite of how often you reject him.
Boys should always talk to us that way.
Yes.
Just
always.
Tell us what we want to hear. Thank you very much.
And I got to say, the sleeper hit for me was definitely that place knows too much. Ooh, that was a punch in the gut.
Yeah. That's the grown-up line that hits us now as grown-ups, where it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Girls, this has been so fun. I can't wait till our next one.
I love you.
Love
guys.
you too.
I'm so dirty from farming today, so I love that this is our lady break, like where we get to just like pause and be 17-year-old girls again and have a good time. All right, guys, saddle up. We'll see you next week. As always, we're your drama queens. We love you.
Bye.
Love you.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens.